The Disaster Artist, a really good movie based off of an even greater book, based off a movie that's so bad it's considered by some to be the greatest movie of all time. So what is The Disaster Artist? Well, The Disaster Artist was originally a book about the production of the movie The Room, which is quoted to be by many people the best worst film ever created. And if you need anything to cement that idea in your head before we move forward, just take in this one scene from The Room.
Hi.
Can I help you?
Yeah, can I have a dozen red roses, please?
Oh, hi, Johnny. I didn't know it was you. Here you go.
That's me. How much is it?
It'll be $18.
Here you go. Keep the change. Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So The Disaster Artist is the lead-up to this movie, and it follows the story of unlikely friendship and finding a bit of success through failure, as well as just paying homage to a really good friendship that Tommy Wiseau had when trying to make it big as an actor. You see, in this book you have two main characters. You have Tommy Wiseau, who's a foreigner and has suspicious ties to money, though you never have that explored, which I love because it just adds to the mysterious ambiance that is Tommy Wiseau's character. And on the other side, you have Greg, a very much American man who has little to no money to his name. But these men are drawn together by one simple ambition. They both want to be actors. There's even a scene in the movie that concretes what their friendship was based off of, which is Greg seeing Tommy act out in an acting class, where Tommy fearlessly walks to the stage and acts out the part in a demonstration. And it was this fearless facade that Tommy put up that was his whole persona, that Tommy would do anything and that he wasn't afraid of what he was doing or afraid to act out anything or how people perceived him in his acting. And it was that fearlessness about him that Greg was really magnetized to and drawn into. And the book carries on, and as time goes on, Tommy and Greg find that they're not really making it as actors. Greg gets a few jobs here and there, whereas Tommy's finding a harder time doing it because even though Tommy may be fearless in his acting, he's not a good actor. And that's one of the things that makes his creation, The Room, so good, is that no one truly is good at acting in that movie. Maybe the drug dealer, but that's about it. It's about one or two people are really good at acting. Everyone else is very obviously static, they're very uptight, they're very robotic in the way they speak, or they refuse to blink. It's a mess. You have to watch The Room to understand. But as time goes on and it starts eating away at Greg and Tommy, and they start thinking they'll never become actors in life. And from this, Tommy does one last ditch effort. He says, screw it. If all these people won't recognize our talents, then we'll make our own movie. They decide to Goodwill Hunt this bad boy and create their own movie called The Room. Now, originally Greg had given up on being an actor and just wanted to be a line reader on set, but in the movie he has a lot more hands-on experience with doing production, directing, as well as script writing, but in reality the book covers how Greg was just simply a line reader. And this is where the madness begins to play in. The Room, since its inception of production, had been riddled with a lot of setbacks and controversies, from the crew and cast not being paid, to fights between actors, to Tommy fighting with the crew, and the movie almost never got finished with how many setbacks they actually had. But Tommy was adamant about this movie being finished because it was special to him. It was a project that he was very ambitious about. And this shows the more asshole side of Tommy, because The Room was a token of friendship between him and Greg. And Greg made it very, very clear he did not want to be in this movie. And so what Tommy did was he slowly faded out the actor that played Greg in the movie and just replaced Greg with him entirely. So every time there was a scene that Tommy felt the actor wasn't doing right, he would just be like, hey Greg, could you do this line in his place so he knows what he's doing? And that would slowly just transition into the movie having Greg in the place of Greg instead of this actor. And the actor basically just gets phased out of the entire production. Like I said, Tommy was fighting with the crew, he was fighting with the actors. It truly is hilarious but horrible at the same time. And though through all these setbacks, through all this drama that Tommy has caused on set, because he wants this movie to be a token to Greg of how much Greg means to him and how much their friendship is, they come through and create The Room. Now, this is where the book and the movie differ a bit, where the book leaves off right before the premiere happens, and it's supposed to be an open interpretation of how you see The Room. The Disaster Artist leaves off in the book as though, hey, you should go see The Room and tell me, do you think it was worth it? Do you think the payoff was worth it? Whereas the movie has this kind of Cinderella ending, they're all friends in the end, they're all happy, and it is touching because it's, once again, a story about unlikely friendship, finding success through failure, as well as the friendship that Tommy and Greg got as they were struggling to do a dream of theirs. And even though they never made it big, they were big to each other. And there are still a lot of things in the movie I wish were there, like the actual fights between Tommy and the crew, or Tommy and the cast, because it happened a lot. It happened very frequently. They were constantly swapping out actors and actresses, as well as getting new crew and firing old crew. It was a clusterfuck, to say the least. It's a wild book. I highly recommend giving it a read. As well as like them going into depth of how the production of The Room was so taxing. Especially like the very memeable scene of I did not hit her.
Scene 112, take 13, mark it, action.
I did not hit her, Okay, line.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Take 17, action.
I hit her.
No. Do you want to change the line?
Script is script. Script stays the same.
You're doing great, man. We'll get there.
Action. Action. Action.
You have
Action.
to say it loud. I can't hear in here. Say action so I can hear her.
Okay.
I think this, as well as many other scenes, is one good reason of why the movie is really good, because it fully captures how stressful it was working with Tommy. You see, this is a very simple scene in practice. It's only a couple of lines and then saying, oh hi Mark, looking in the direction of Mark. But with Tommy, this is a scene that takes hours on end, multiple hundreds of takes. And because of this, Tommy's not only getting frustrated with the crew, he's getting frustrated with himself, and the crew, in turn, is getting frustrated with him. So they gave him this water bottle to throw during the scene. He wasn't originally supposed to have one, but because of how stressed he was getting, he just needed to blow off steam by throwing something. And the other bad habit that Tommy had was that every time he got his lines correct, he would have this really bad habit of laser focusing on the ground and diverting all his attention there. And so he'd be looking in the wrong direction when he was supposed to be delivering his lines, and they'd have to start all over again. So in the very few instances Tommy got his lines right, in the book they describe how the cast and crew would be behind the camera, like waving their arms, jumping up and down, trying to get Tommy's attention. And it eventually did work, and that's how the scene came to be. In all honesty, James Franco does a fabulous job representing Tommy in this movie and depicting him in the full character that we know him as. And for James, this was a very personal project, which I could see why he would. It's a story about an actor trying to make it big, but no one really believes in him except his best friend or someone really close to him. And I think that's a story a lot of actors could make it into. It say, you know, I could see myself as Tommy, or we were all Tommy at one point. And for many actors, you know, you're either Tommy or Greg, where you don't get any work at all because people don't see you have any talent, or you get a lot of jobs that aren't anything to write home about, like starring in a commercial here and there. And for a lot of actors, it could be seen as a very personal story of two guys who had a dream that they really tried to make happen, even if it was on a very low-budget, very chaotic film like The Room. But all in all, I would highly recommend reading The Disaster Artist or watching The Disaster Artist. if you haven't seen The Room, I highly recommend you read The Disaster Artist so that you can make a good judgment on the ending of The Disaster Artist, seeing if, all the struggle and what they went through was worth it for the end product of The Room. But you do you at the end of the day. In all honesty, I think these got heavily overlooked because many people weren't invested in The Room unless you were part of internet meme culture. But it truly is like a movie so bad it's good, as well as the story behind its creation is just a phenomenal, heartwarming story about Tommy and Greg. And I hope to this day they're still friends. I tried looking into it to see if they're, still friends or remnants of that, and I haven't been able to find anything. At the end of the day, it's more chaotic than Neil Breen movie. God, do we have to go 2016 and talk about Neil Breen?